without the power of God behind everything I do, I really am completely inadequate.
I'm helping the culture. These guys are part of us as well. You know, these guys are our cousin. I'm helping the culture. I'm pushing the culture forward in another way.
Hey, black child, be what you can be, learn what you must learn, do what you can do, and tomorrow.
What do you do after you read? What do you do after you know all, right? And you can say that you're truly conscious. How are you putting what you know into action?
Hey, what is up? This is your host, Jasmine Gates of the New Black History Makers Show. I'm excited because we clearly have a full house. Usually it's like 2 or 3 people or 1. But yeah, so if you've seen me for the past, almost 2 years posting with some people in the backyard and some music playing and a Bible study happening, that is Over the Hump LA. And this is a leadership team. So, yes.
Gang.
Yes, alrighty. So if you are on Facebook or on YouTube, or maybe you follow either one of us on Instagram, you'll see that today we're talking about Millennials and God. We are all millennials. I'm on the cusp, but I'm going to be a millennial today. And we're just going to talk about that. So we are all living for God. And I think there's a lot to be talked about as it relates to the older generations, right? And then also the things that we face with people in our generation that are maybe like believing in different things and how we manage that. We have husbands here, so how are they not manipulating, but maneuvering through life?
Not manipulating. Stay positive. Hold on.
How are they maneuvering through life as husbands and fathers and making sure that their kids are, getting the good from our faith and our religion? So we'll do introductions first. Bishop C.W. Keith, would you like to?
I'm weak. Not a bishop.
Definitely would you like to start us off with who are you, what you do?
Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Charles Keys. On the board with Over the Hump. When we're not doing Over the Hump, I'm doing filmmaking. I'm part of the film industry, write, direct, and camera operator.
Yes.
Hey y'all.
Amber was here last week.
I was here last week. No, I'm just kidding. But yep. Amber, outside of Over the Hump, I have a nonprofit and I am a brand strategist, a mom. And yeah, that's it.
My name is Ariel. People call me Rail. Outside of Over the Hump, I'm a project manager for USC surgery department and husband and father of 2 kids.
Shut up. Braulio.
What up, y'all? My name is Braulio. Make sure you roll an R.
I'm weak.
Never heard it.
Hey, that was a new one for sure. That was a new one.
Braulio.
Yeah, Braulio. You gotta roll the R. Part of the leadership team Over the Hump. It's been a blessing to be. I'm a part of this squad. These individuals here are incredible. And outside of Over the Hump, I am a teacher. I teach PE. I'm a coach, and I train athletes. So that's what I'm not doing when I'm not doing the Over the Hump thing.
Yeah.
Not OTHing.
Which I try to do consistently, right?
Yeah.
Try to take that into that as well. So that's why
I love it. And then I guess I should have had you guys say how you're doing, but probably let us know. How are you?
I'm good. I mean, you say, how are you? Okay. I mean, I'm good. I think every day is a grind, right? And every day is a part of the process of just being who God has called me to be, and understanding that every day isn't peaches and cream.
For sure.
But if you stay attached to who He is and what He's called you to do, He makes the road a lot easier.
Yeah.
So that's how I am. I just try to stay connected, try to stay in that space with Him.
I love it, bro.
Same here. I'm good, comfortably uncomfortable. growing in a lot of ways. So
That's
you know,
good.
it just is what
All
it
these
is.
preachers in here.
That's real good.
All
dude.
these preachers in here.
So that's it, man. Every day is a new day. Just taking it in stride. That's it.
Amber.
Yes. I'm good. Okay with being not okay, you know? Just waking up, loving life, and taking it how it's, you know, coming. It's a new opportunity to be great.
Yeah,
Sheesh.
for sure.
Man, y'all good. Y'all real good.
All of these quotables. Somebody put them in the comments.
Right?
Not sure.
I was waiting on it.
We would just be making random noises.
Always.
Oh.
That's how it goes.
And it's funny, for some reason they make sense sometimes.
Yep.
But I'm doing good. I'm out here staying positive. I feel like I'm preparing to go into a new season of life. I feel like it's been a season of enduring, which seems like forever. what's the
My man is over here struggling.
what's the song?
I was singing it in my head.
What's say it? What's it? Y'all seen that clip where it was like, how it start? I'll sing it. I just can't think of it.
I don't do it.
What is it? I just sent it to you, bro. Yo.
Which one?
With the whatchamacallit singing.
The girl?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I know you're sad and tired, but you'll get over it. You'll find it. Nah, but it was a little clip, and it was just funny because she was singing it, and it was just like, it's so funny because she sounded good singing it, but it was about like, that was a real thing. The whole thing, she was like, I know you're sad and tired, but you'll get over it. But it just seemed like life always got some stuff going on, but
Life
I'm
be
in a
lifing.
place. Huh?
So life be life.
No, for sure. So yeah, I'm excited to get out that season. I'm not out yet, but I'm seeing the end of the tunnel a little bit, so that's positive.
For sure, for sure. So, if you've watched, well, tell us also, well, no, we'll do that later. If you watch the show, you know that, and shout out to DJ Gamera, he's in the studio too.
Press one of the buttons. Amber. Press a button.
Just,
Oh, you can do that?
Look, Braulio said I want to sit right there.
Oh, I definitely should have said that.
I don't know which, I'm sorry. I don't know the button, but DJ Gamera is here. You've seen, well, it's going very long. You've seen him in some of the promos or in the comments. He's always in the comments and always supporting. He actually came in today, so shout out to you. Definitely appreciate you. If you watch the show, you know that beyond the how are you doing, I always ask a random question. And today's question, because I ask these questions because it's important for us to not just ask how are you doing, because sometimes people don't give like real answers. So these are questions to help foster a more in-depth conversation. So, who impacted your week the most and why? And anybody can grab that first. Who impacted your week the most and why?
You want to crack it off, Amber? You know, Amber just preached that this over the hump, so I feel like
All right, she's still oily.
she got a hold down. She's
Oily.
anointed though.
Wow, this is crazy because I didn't really think about that. I mean,
Yeah, I didn't.
Oh, you
share
can't
that
hear
with
me?
them.
That's not a problem.
Stay positive.
Okay, stay positive. No, but
Sorry.
God, I feel like I've been so part of my process, like when I'm getting ready to speak, has been like isolating myself from like outside activities. Like I don't like to leave my nest. And so that's literally like having that like alone time, but like for that specific goal of like, how can I impact your people while I'm about to get out here and speak, and you know, just making sure that my heart is in the right space and all that. So I think having that conversation with God and just making sure that I'm moving in alignment and the things that I'm going to be speaking about are in alignment was really big for me this week because of Wednesday. So
Anybody else? Or not anybody else, but who else?
I'll go. I was gonna say Amber, honestly, because
Come on.
I'm actually preparing to preach my second sermon this Sunday, and so when that's dope. I'm trying to let it settle. You gotta let it settle.
Gotta let it settle.
But honestly though, watching Amber up there though, it's like, you know, I believe this was your second time, right?
Yeah.
This your second time. So being able to see her growth, that was very inspiring. It's like you can tell she's getting more comfortable up there, and you know, she's like, you know, she's glowing. She's just
Yeah.
like, this is where she's supposed to be,
Yeah.
and she's very comfortable in it. And so to watch that was just like, this is the process. Like, we're watching the process. So you start off in the ministry, you step in there, you're like, most of us, we get into this like, Lord, why are we here? Is it really us? Is it really us? You know what I mean? And then you finally step into it, but then you're like, am I adequate, or am I going to do the job? How can I serve your people? Am I doing a good job? And then you just, after a while, you just be like, Lord, you be okay with I'm just obedient, and I'm going to trust you to just come through. So watching that from you was very inspiring, and it really encouraged me to go into the end of this week. So yeah, appreciate
Shout
you.
out.
Appreciate you.
So beautiful. So beautiful. Did you answer?
Nah, I didn't. But it's crazy that you say that, real, because Amber, you blessed me like in a crazy way this week on Wednesday. For real, like I'm just you reminded me to stay in position. You know what I mean? Like you really reminded me that as so often, like we go through things in life, right? Like life is just life. Life is gonna life. And I was in a space of just really trying to figure other things out. Like, man, I could figure it out. You know what I mean? And here and stay in position, like you allowed me to reminded me that God got it, right? Like so often we try to create this space and try to create what we think things should be like. And after hearing the message and your message on Wednesday, it was just like, chill, bro. You good, bro. Sit down and relax. Stay in position. God got you. I take care of you. So really just hearing you and with the question being who impacted you, right? Like, hate to jump on the bandwagon, but it's like you really, like real talk. I wish it was a crime, but nah. But you really blessed me Wednesday, like to be 100, like on like 10,000, for real.
Turn up.
I found the drums, but I ain't gonna hit it.
Oh, there's drums.
They're gonna be long.
That wasn't the right. That was not the right. But
That is a drum.
Oh, okay, I
But
didn't
I'm
hear it,
fine.
y'all.
That was like the
It's
joke.
after a
that's
joke.
like the joke. Yeah, that's like a joke. Like
What kind of drums did you think was going to play? A drum solo. Oh, those are horns.
It's okay. It's okay.
Bishop Keys, who impacted your week?
You gotta chill, bro. Who impacted me the most this week? I gotta think about what happened this week. We just be trying to be alive. We're like, what the heck happened this week? Just off of it being fresh, when you think about Amber's thing about staying in position, I think it was just like the whole OTH family in general.
Yeah.
Because like with Amber preaching this week, like I feel like I was telling her this, it encourages people in a different way, because you can see regular preachers come up and preach, but when you see people that's from the business world or something, just bold enough just to step out and talk about God, I feel like we box in what a preacher is, you know what I mean? Like we make it this title more than an action. And like for her to do that, I've seen everybody at Over the Hump. I've seen so many people get so inspired in their faith, you know what I mean? So I think the whole OTH family from the leadership board, but from everybody in the audience, like people were left feeling inspired, feeling like they want to talk about God. So, anytime, all of us being on the board, that's our goal. So to actually see that, and I feel like we see it sometimes, but we got a lot of responses after she preached where it was just like, dang, like that was inspiring. So I think just the whole OTH family,
Shout out. I
Amen.
love it. And then let's talk about Over the Hump and what it is for people.
And just for everybody to know, Jazz is a part of the OTH leadership board as well.
Was
You know
that
what I
not
mean?
clear?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure if it was, but just for all the viewers.
They know. Well, yeah. They know what I'm posting.
Yeah, I know. They
They
like,
know
the
I be
backyard.
I'll be posting.
But yeah, so us talking about Wednesday, Over the Hump is a Bible study that takes place every third Wednesday. And Amber spoke at the last one. So that's kind of what everyone is referencing. But Charles, would you like to go ahead and give a little bit about what Over the Hump is?
Yeah. It's basically just a space for people to grow in God comfortably and in a non-judgmental area where they could just get closer to God. You know what I mean? And we do our best to just provide that. We just like to call it just a space that's made for Young LA by Young LA, so people can get closer to God. And it's funny because, you know, as any business or organization, you have a target audience, right? But there's also people who outside of the target audience that flood in big, you know, in big portions. So our target audience is anybody that feels like they can't go to church comfortably or they feel like they'll be judged. So that's our target audience. But it's been surprising to see how many people from actual churches come too, because it's just more than a comfortable space for someone that doesn't feel comfortable. It's a comfortable space, period. You know, and hopefully that's, you know, a direct derivative from the presence of God, you know.
Yeah. So Over the Hump, follow on Instagram, OTH Over the Hump XLA.
Yep.
Yeah, got that right. But follow and just stay tuned for things that are coming, and then also just mark on your calendars that third Wednesday and come out and you know worship and stuff with us.
September 21st.
September 21st.
My boy Real will be preaching.
Shout
You feel
out.
me? So Real gonna go crazy. Oh, good one. Oh. Bow, 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 bow.
Yeah.
Ever really want them horns?
Something might be here.
Oh no. Let's just explore them as we go. Just randomly press stuff.
Bear with us, y'all.
Yeah, it's not here. Okay, yeah. So let's get into the conversation. Millennials and God. I think we all come from different kind of backgrounds as it relates to, I mean, life and then our religion and faith. But when y'all hear that millennials and God, like, what comes to your mind?
Struggle.
Why struggle?
Because to be 100, like outside of us, it's tough to see millennials in church.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that that's what's so exciting about Over the Hump is that we get to see people that look like us there.
Yeah.
Charles came to my church the other day when I had to preach. We being transparent,
No,
bro.
for sure. I'm just laughing already.
Like we being I when I do this stuff, I'm transparent. 100%.
No, for sure. I
You know what I
appreciate
mean?
that.
And he came to my church and he was like, bro, I didn't see nobody our age. Like everybody had gray hair. So when you think about millennials in church, bro, it's a struggle.
Yeah.
We're not going. And now my question is like, well, I don't want to pose a question. But
No, pose your question.
How do we get them there? Like, how do we get them at church?
For sure.
You know? And it's just, so when I think about millennials at church, I'm like, that's struggling because not only is it a struggle to get them to church, but millennials are struggling.
Yeah.
Like that's when you really trying to find who you are. That's where you really trying to dive into life. You know what I mean? And it's like you really out here doing it alone if you don't have a body to do it with. You know, so it's tough, man. It's tough. It's a struggle when I think about millennials in church.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy.
No, for sure. Anyone else want to touch on that?
Yeah, I would have to piggyback on that for real because it is like really, and not to plug it like this, but that's what I was going to be talking about on Sunday is just how do we bridge this gap between older generation and new generation? It's like for millennials, a lot of us are you either approaching 30 or you just got to 30, a little bit past it. And so you're at that point in life now. And a lot of people, like a lot of times when I listen to my friends and stuff like that, and it's like problem after problem after problem. And life is going to have its problem, don't get me wrong. But you can notice people being in these cycles. And it's like one day it kind of just hit me is that a lot of these problems y'all going through is because y'all don't really have a relationship with God. And it's like, you know, how do I say that with love without being like, you need to go to church? Like, it's not, that's not what you necessarily need to do right now. But you got to understand, you're looking at your life and you're looking like, oh, well, I'm having problems with sex. I'm having problems with drugs, or I'm just having problems in my career and finding out what I want to do and just getting out of my parents' house or whatever the case may be. And it's like, but the reason why these problems keep on bouncing from one problem to the other is because you aren't anchored anywhere. So you're just being tossed to and fro. So I think struggle is a good word for the climate that we're at right now.
Even when you talk about, I don't know if this, we could kind of, okay.
Do what you want. Let it
even when you talk about that, like you talk about all the things that millennials go through, it's like the reason I say struggle is like because it's hard to have those conversations because I don't feel comfortable going to the church to have those conversations.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like, how do we make that a comfortable space so people could really, because honestly, like I always said this, even growing up, like church for me was like a kick it. Like I had fun there.
Yeah.
It was enjoyable, right? But as it got older, it became like almost. And I'm not comparing church to the club, but I'm just saying, like it was like a club space, right? Everybody knew each other. You go to enjoy. But church is supposed to be a hospital, like a hospital, where I come to church because I need something, right? I come to church because I need a healing. I need to be fixed. Like that's what the church is supposed to be like. And I feel like we've created this space of church where it's like everybody know each other, everybody there because they friends there. You know what I mean? And it's like, how do we make this space a place where we could take those issues? How do we make church a place where I could take my sex addiction, my alcohol addiction, my drug addiction, my just my emptiness, my anxiety, my depression. Like how do we take those things to the church without feeling ostracized? You know what I mean? And I think that's what got me attached to OTH so much, Over the Hump so much, is that I felt comfortable to be able to say, like, bro, I'm jacked up. You know what I mean? And that's okay. That's what Christ is for.
Yeah. I think the answer is us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We feel more comfortable when we start seeing more people like us in it.
For sure.
And doing it. So the thing is, somebody has to be bold enough, brave enough, in love with the Lord enough to say, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Sheesh.
You know what I mean? Forget looking around complaining about it. I don't see us, when somebody gonna do it, I'm gonna do it.
Absolutely.
And that's a piece of, we've had conversations, and that's my push too, is that even as like someone that's pro-Black and pushing this movement, there's a lot of things that I don't get to experience. There's a lot of things that I have to create. So people being able to where I am a new Black history maker, I don't get to experience that, right? I would love to, but I create that. I create this environment. I've created this show. I create the things that I want to see. And it's the same thing, like you were saying, with the church. A lot of us that are in the knowledge and are a little more mature, I guess, in our faith, and that may see these issues have to take place in these spaces and say, okay, the next person is going to go and say that they don't see anybody, but I need to be the person that they see. And I also need to be in good relationship with my leaders or whoever is doing ministry to make sure that I'm having conversations with them, so that they're like, hey, I'm a millennial. You're wondering why this age group is not here, but I'm also here serving at your church. I'm also here. I'm a faithful member. So listen to what I have to say about it. And I think we have to really take up that responsibility, especially as people sitting here. Like, of course, I shot out one message and got 5 believers to get on my show, right? But that's not everybody's situation. How many people have 5? And then I can call a bunch of people, to come and sit down with me and talk about God. But how many people have that? They don't. So we have to be that, change, like you were saying. And sometimes we have to realize, like, yes, we've benefited, or we maybe not have benefited the best from the church, and things have happened to us from the older generations or whatever. But those of us sitting here have a certain level of responsibility. May not be fair all the time. It may not be the best feeling thing, because we have to care. Sometimes we have to mask our emotions, or just be like, oh, we were hurt by this, and we just got to go take it to God and pray that God will heal us of it. But there's a responsibility, because there's people that are, coming over the hunt that will never see the church, right? But they're wanting to hear something from us.
I also think, though, too, it's like meeting people where they're at. Like Braulio, I believe you were saying, like, about we can scream all day, go to church, get up, go to church. But it's like, we got to take steps. Like, everybody, isn't going to, have that, I guess, spiritual maturity to be like, oh, I got a problem, let me go to church. So I think,
sorry.
So I think, Over the Hump is that space, because we get to grow in that community aspect. And then it's a place where, like Charles was saying, it doesn't matter what background, whether you're heavily in the church or you would have never thought to go to the church, right? We've had experiences with people that, we personally know that were out in the streets doing whatever, that came to OTH one time and it changed things for them. So I feel like meeting people where they're at, and not being that bulldog in a sense, giving those steps or those action steps on what to take to get somebody to go to the church. Because it's for me, I wasn't reading my Bible like that. Now I'm reading it, but at first I'm I need a verse of the day. I need a devotional. I'm not just about to sit down and read the Bible, but it's okay, now it's interesting. Let me figure out what was going on over here. So it's just, just not having that high expectation, especially dealing like with our demographic being in South Central of like go to church. And then also within the church, it's like that transparency that we all provide and just be real. Like we don't see that in the pulpit. Like you don't hear your pastor talking about like whatever the case, right?
Well,
Like,
I'm gonna push back too because I think people. I mean, like, and we've had the conversation that you would have to be in the church to say it, whether it's there.
well, I'm
or
only
whether it's
speaking
not.
from like my experience. Probably it needs to be updated, but
Mhm.
from what turned me off from it was I wasn't looking at people that were being open and honest, and things were coming out to the light that kind of turned me away from God. And me and Charles talk about this all the time, and we never want to be the reason why somebody turns away from God. So again, there is that responsibility, and it is that need to like watch how you maneuver, I guess, outside. But it's also the point of just from my experience, I never had anybody that was openly resonating about like weed or sex addiction or whatever the case, right? So that may be going on now, and I got to try it again or find a home church, right? But again, meeting people where they're at. And now I'm in the space where I am actively seeking a home church. You get what I'm saying?
And I think that's the
We have about 30 seconds for our break. So
stay positive.
go ahead. Well,
Choose Christ.
well, okay. Hold on to your thought. But yeah, I mean, it's a good conversation. Please send this to somebody. We have about 20 seconds before this break.
Actually, send it to somebody too. Don't just do it right now.
Oh, okay.
Right now.
Send it to somebody. Oh, we have comments and stuff. We'll get them when we come back. But yeah, and leave some questions and stuff for us in the chat if you can. Where is my overlay?
Overlay.
DJ Camry.
We have commercial.
Hey, Jackie, what's wrong?
I'm over here running around trying to tell everybody about the Podcast Pit.
What's the Podcast Pit?
I'm glad you asked. The Podcast Pit is an event where you will find some of your favorite podcasts performing in front of a live audience.
Will there be food and drinks there?
Of course there will be. It's at Joxer Dailies in Culver City. They have a full bar and a full menu.
Hey, I may need to tell people about this as well.
Yes, come with me. Let's tell them. The Podcast Pit is coming.
The Podcast Pit is coming.
Hey, Michael, that's a dope-ass shirt. What is that?
You know what it is. I only rock the Flyers gear, and the Flyers gear can be found with TGN Radio.
Where did you get it?
TGNradio.net. Go onto the page, click TGN Shop Store, and you can get everything you need.
I'm getting mine right now. And make sure y'all do the same. Go get your TGN merch. Enjoy your show.
What's up, friends? It's Iron Friends. We're here at the Podcast Pit LA. It was so fun. We came to rep the IE. I think we did a pretty good job. So shout out to the Podcast Pit for having us. Shout out to TGN. You guys should definitely check them out. You should check me out, Saul V. Gomez.
Y'all can find me at I Know Caesar on IG. You can find me at airbear_IE on IG.
And you guys can find the podcast at Iron Friends on every social media network except for OnlyFans. That's coming soon. So stay tuned. So follow us and follow TGN Podcast.
Hey y'all, we are back. I'm your host, Jasmine Gates. This is the New Black History Makers show, and we are talking about millennials and God. I have Braulio here, Rel, Amber, and Charles. And yeah, that's the conversation. So I'm gonna go to the comments before we go back to the conversation we were having. Shout out to Sash. She said yes, and it depends on the church you go to. Yes, and then group Bible study is the initial step to retaining millennials. Charles, and shout out to you, Desmo, for listening. We appreciate you. Charles, did you want to go to your thought?
Yeah, I was thinking about if we're thinking about actual results, like how do we get people to Christ? I think it all boils down to having people being able to authentically be themselves, but have a comfortable space to even grow and talk about stuff, regardless whether we're right or wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like in a hard way to do that, one of the big bottlenecks or things that prohibit us from doing that is not having a place where people can live cohesively and still disagree. It's almost like everybody has to agree in order for this to be an effective place. And that's incorrect. Like for all of us, Jazz, my sister, me and Jazz be going at it in a healthy way, but because that it gives so many different views, and it's almost like, especially with Over the Hump, I mean, we've all talked about this on multiple levels. It's like we have to be careful because we're so passionate that we'll make other people feel uncomfortable the same way the church has made us feel uncomfortable. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, I think it's about unlearning what we think we already know from both multiple aspects. You know what I mean? Because there's a conversation me and you had, Jazz, and I think it was like very effective is even more what we think the church is. We just need touch points. Like there should always be, if we're trying to grow in Christ, the church is effective in different generations because it's Bible study, it's church 2 times on Sunday, 3 times, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. There's choir rehearsal, but when you're in community with people, I think that's super effective because you're able to reach out in different moments. And I think where the ball was dropped, it wasn't even the ball was dropped with the older generation. Like you said, it's kind of our responsibility. I think it's fully our responsibility. Yeah. If you think about like a football team and like as the old heads that get older, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, they have a responsibility, but now it's the young head. Now it's the first round draft pick. We drafted you for a reason. This is yours. It's not the old head's responsibility. Yeah. Sure. They're doing what's effective for their generation. And I think that's where a lot of conflict and conversation comes in. We need to be doing what's effective for our generation, or else we become, like naysayers about like, oh, and I had to check myself on this. I'll be quick to say, oh, the church, you're not doing this. Well, Charles, what are you doing? Right. Mm-hmm. Charles, how about you just be quiet and just reach out to the people that you could reach out to? You know what I mean? And I think if everybody just effectively does it that way, then like even what Rel is going to talk about on his message, that's how we bridge gaps. Not by saying, oh, we need to do this, Everybody just be effective in their own sense, and then we could come together. You know what I mean? And that's just an opinion. I'm not here to say, I'm just perfectly right or nothing like that. But you was gonna say something, Braulio?
No, I like that. I like that, and I like it because it reminds us to play our position, right? The body. The word talks about the body, right, and the body of the church. And I think that as we think about the body, everybody has their different limbs. Yeah. You know what I mean? And the body doesn't work if everybody isn't playing their part. And that's the same thing we talked about with baseball. Yeah. Right. Like as a baseball player, I like to relate things to sports because I play. I know that. Let me tell you.
That's what I do know.
I do know that. And as a baseball team, you got 9 different positions.
Yeah.
Right. And everybody has to play their role the right way in order for the team to be successful. Mm-hmm. And I think what happens so often is that we've allowed the older generation to play their position and they played it well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But when it was our time to come into the game, we wanted them to still be playing. Mm-hmm. And it was like, no, bro, it's your turn to play. Mm-hmm. You got to play. Get out there. Do your thing.
And I think it's also not even that we wanted them to play, but we wanted them to be removed.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times there's a lot of
What do you mean by that? What is?
Like, we're like, oh, the way that you taught us was wrong. Please move out the way because we're going to come in and do it our way. And I think that's also the wrong way too.
It is because the game is still the same game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think that there's two different things that I think it's like the older generation was like, this is the only way we could play.
Yeah.
And we came in like, no, this is the way we could play. As opposed to saying like, we can play the game.
Yeah.
The game is the game.
Yeah.
Right? Let's play the game. I love the way you play the game.
Yeah.
This game got me here. But now that you're in position to be a part. Like let's figure it out. Let's evolve. And I think that the older generation wasn't willing to evolve. They were like,
for sure.
They were like, no, this got us here. So this is the only way we're going to do it. And we were like, yeah, but that's not working. As opposed to saying like, let's bridge the gap. Let's figure out how it can all work together.
And I think you asked me the question, like, why is there such a draw right between us? And, you know, you have to go Black history makers, like looking at history, right? Where my grandparents, when my grandmother sat in a service, whatever that preacher was saying, like her grandfather or her father, if they were preaching, that was law.
Yeah.
Now I'm sitting under my bishop and listening to him speak. In that moment, I can go and fact check what he's saying. Yeah. I can go home and watch 100 different sermons on a preacher's preaching that same scripture. And I'm like, that's the difference, where they were sitting under someone, and when he said something, when they said don't wear pants, when they said don't wear nail polish, they took it as law, and that was it. But with me, I can go and say, oh, let me look in this moment with my phone and go see if that's even in the scripture. Right. And in that moment, I can be corrected, or I can say, oh, bishop or pastor, this is not what it is. And I think we have to have a lot of patience. Like I had a situation with my grandmother. It was something going on. And somebody goes, oh, to a person, oh, you're not saved, right? My grandmother used to be the champion of telling people that they were not saved. Like, she just would let you know. Yeah, like, you would think that God was telling her, like, about your salvation. Like, she would just say it. And literally this week, she tells the person, you know what? I used to say that, but I cannot say that anymore. And she brings up maybe Romans 10:9, I think. And she goes, we don't know that. Only God knows. So you can't tell somebody that. Now, this is someone for the past 27 years that I just thought she was just going to hold on to that position in her life of being able to tell people.
What do you think changed her? Where did this shift come from?
Well, I think we really believe that the Bible is a living, breathing instrument that's able to change lives. And I think with her being over 70, almost 80 years old, that in this 70th decade of her life, she realized, wow, I was reading that wrong. And that's why I'm saying there's people that, you know, to the comments like, oh, the church isn't doing this or that. But you have to have been there for 27 years to see the change, right? Because I went through 20 something years of her telling us, her grandkid, we wasn't saved because we was doing this. We wasn't saved because we was doing that. So in 2022, for me to still be here and to see her say, I was wrong with that. For over 20 something or over 60 years, I've been wrong in saying this. So that's why I'm like, I'm learning to have more grace with them, you know, and to be like, yeah, you guys, we can be real. Y'all got it wrong. Some things you got wrong, but the Bible is still a living, breathing instrument that can still change them.
And I feel like that's what a big thing is, like how the word talks about it. You got to give as much grace as you want people to give to you.
For sure.
And I don't think the younger generation outside of church or the church, the older generation in the church does a good job of that. Like, I don't think none of us do. And I think that's why I said, if we can have a comfortable place to fail, I think that would change everything. Wow. You know what I'm saying? Because with us, I love all of y'all. Y'all know my shortcut. I tell each one of you. You know what I'm saying? And the fact that you could, exactly. Yeah. And the fact that y'all could love me through that, it gives me confidence to be a healthy Christian. Yeah. I'm not going to give up because stuff gets hard. But it's because y'all empowered me through that. And I think with both generations, because we all have hurt from whichever, when we come at each other, it's just straight, you know what I mean? Just straight conflict instead of being able to have a comfortable place to fail in, you know?
I love that you said like comfortable place to fail, because so often as a believer growing up, I didn't think I was supposed to.
Oh God.
You know what I mean? Like,
supposed to fail.
Supposed to fail. Yeah. Right? Like I was like, dog, I'm not supposed, like, looking at my pastor in the pulpit, listening to my mom talk every day, I can't mess up. And then when I got older, and I'm like, bro, I'll keep messing up over and over.
I can't be a Christian.
Bro, I'm jacked up, bro. Like, what is wrong with me?
See what these other religions talk about.
Well, let's talk about that though. Don't lose that thought. But go ahead.
Like, I'm not. I felt like I wasn't supposed to mess up, but if you find a place where you can comfortably fail and still be in the body, bro, that's powerful. Yeah. That's different.
So that's thinking about that. We always go to the how, right? I think the how behind that and creating a space that you can comfortably fail is it starts with creating a culture of humility, right? Because we gotta humble ourselves. Like when we have to come from a space that we know that we're gonna make mistakes because we're not as great as we like to think we are.
For sure.
We're all humans. We all, you know what I mean?
Make that a sound.
And it's wild because in the day, I think the thing about it is, like the day and age that we're in with social media, everyone has an opinion now, but no one values anybody else's opinion.
Sure.
It's like everybody just want to make their comment. Everybody want to make their comment on their page. They don't care about nothing. They not reading. They not getting any context. They not even watching the whole interview. They watching 30-second clips, 30-second clip of an hour-long interview and being like, you know what? I think this person needs to be canceled because of this. They don't read any more comments. They literally put that comment on the page like a bomb, just drop a bomb and then just run out of there. They don't even comment back to the people that's commenting on them. You know what I mean? People
say, stay here and talk to me,
bro. Because
they don't even remember the comment that they posted.
Well, like, listen, this is the reason why I don't be in people comments. Like, you know what I mean? Because it's like, but I do read them. Like, I don't really comment on them because I don't get into the nonsense.
So I be there. I see what you're saying.
But the Bible, no, don't join the nonsense. You know what I mean?
That's real though.
It's like there was a saying. It's not in the Bible, but it's like if you're arguing with fools, you look like one from a distance. Nobody can tell. You know what I mean? You sitting there, you know, arguing with somebody schizophrenic. Bro, as a person driving by, they just gonna be like, look at these two crazy people. You know what I mean? So I don't get into it. But one thing I noticed is that, like I said, we all have a platform to give their opinion. I think it's okay. It's good for you to have an opinion, develop your opinions on it. But start finding out some other stuff. I think that's where the newer generation, where we've been lacking. We ended up hating the older generation because they had their way about things, but we ended up being just like them. We found another way, and then we was like, no, our way is better than your way. And it's like, bro, we have to value each way to be able to find a better way. So,
and the piece about humility, one thing that like God has been working on me with is the fact that I know how he deals with me. I know that I've messed up and that he gives me grace and mercies are renewed every morning and all of that. So when someone does wrong or does me wrong, what humbled me the most is realizing that he is in relationship with them in the same exact way.
Wow.
So it makes me talk about them differently. It makes me talk about the situation differently because I'm like, he's not a different God to them than he is to me. Yeah. And the same way he's giving them more chances is the same way he's giving me more chances. That's good. So you're looking at someone, you're looking at yourself essentially. So you have to deal with that person, regardless if it's, you know, the older generations or someone that has just wronged you. It's like you look at them in a way like, you know, God sees you the same way he sees me. So how can I think negatively? We'll cut the show off. No, I'm just kidding. But how can I view you and your, you know, your flesh wants to look at that person like, how dare you? Why would you do that? But it's like, no, God views us, we're his children, you know, and that's something that is like, it you know, just hits me in the chin every time because it's like, no, I'm justified in my offense. I'm justified in me feeling the way that I'm feeling because this person was wrong. The Bible said that this person was wrong, you know, but it's like, and you were wrong.
Oh,
and he still woke you up, you know, he still gave you, he still blessed you. So, you know, it's a chin check for sure. I'd be like, yeah. But
wow. I love that, man.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. I mean, we're not on the fact that
we got some more.
I didn't even see my mom.
She gonna be
Shauna. Oh.
No, my mom.
I didn't even
everybody mama here.
Oh wow, there's a lot of comments. Okay, let's go to the comments. I'm looking up here and seeing there's no notifications, but there are comments coming in. That's mom, right? God never changes. He's the same today, tomorrow, and forevermore. For sure. Shauna says, I love it. It's the growth for me. A lot of times the older generation only did what they knew to do, right? A comfortable place to fail. Yes. Real talk. Right. To mom again, we all have one destination in estimate, Jesus sometimes. To all the people have, wait, am I reading correctly?
I think so.
So all the people have to pass the baton to the youth. Oh, the older people have to pass the baton to the youth. That's what makes it hard for the younger people because the older don't want to get involved. Right. That's a piece. Shauna, LOL, no.
Preach, Gates.
Shout out to Sash. Our destination is to meet Jesus. It's hard for the younger adults because their older members do not want to pass the baton. That will teach the younger people. That's true. Hey y'all, Shauna. Yes, I love that. Go ahead.
This is one thing I think that changed my perception about a lot, and I could be wrong with this, but I'm gonna be bold in this statement.
Go ahead.
I don't feel like people in the church or out of the church read the Bible.
Mm.
Because once I start reading the Bible,
100%.
I start reading the Bible. I said, "This is what the Bible is."
Yeah.
How y'all preaching? What y'all preaching?
And you know what? For me, honestly, I would say for me, I'm just speaking on my behalf.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because I grew up in the church too. My pastors weren't the problem. It was the congregation.
Absolutely.
I had some dope pastors. It was the congregation who just like, you know what I mean, or judge people and just be so, gossiping all the time, and it's just unattractive. But when I read the scriptures, I'm like, hold on, this is what Jesus did. This is the same Bible that I'm convinced that people don't read, because if you read the word is alive, like you said, the spirit will transform you instantly. You know what I mean? But I don't blame people, because it's hard to sit down and read or even want to get into it unless you hit this, But I think like that's why the church is important, and even like the biblical definition of church is just a body of believers. When you have a body of believers to go to constantly, it encourages you to do that. It's just the same way, if you got 10 friends and they're all millionaires, you're going to be the 11th millionaire, right? For all of us, if we got people in the word, if we in the word, regardless of when, like, you're going to eventually get in the word, because that's what's going on. So I think more than we could argue what's right or wrong, but let's just go to the word, like, you know what I mean? For ourselves, not even to debate on it, but to let it be transformed.
And I think even beyond, because you've mentioned that, like, that thing of like, oh, I don't think people are reading. And I think there are people that are, right? But then also there comes a time where you have to like apply what it is. So there's you sitting there and you reading, and then you feeling like, oh, okay, because the change can be happening. But if you're not allowing, or if you're not going in and Braulio does something wrong to me and I don't go and say, okay, I forgive you, or I bring my, to you, right, to try and fix it, that just means that I didn't do what it said to do.
Thanks.
But I think there are a lot of people that are reading, but they're just not like comprehending.
Like reading to understand.
What was the scripture you had just said yesterday? Not yesterday, Wednesday, whenever. The doing. I don't know where it's at.
But faith comes by hearing. And
nah, it was like you could read it, but you have to do the word. You have to be doers of the word. Like if you're not doing the word, reading it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
and people know the Bible. Yeah. The devil knows.
No,
they do. The devil knows the Bible.
Not convinced.
They know the Bible.
I don't know.
They do. How are preachers sitting up here preaching and don't know the Bible?
It don't sound like it. I don't know. I'm not convinced.
I think people know it, but the application part is hard.
Yeah, for sure.
Applying the word is tough, man, because what happens then is you read it, you're like, oh, that's cool. Like, yeah, I could do it. But then when somebody hurts you, when somebody break your heart, when you attach to something that you can't let go, like those things are hard to do.
For sure.
You know what I mean? So it's like, it's cool. I can read it with ease. That's easy. We can all do that.
Yeah.
But when you apply it, that's what makes it real. That's what that's what makes the word life.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that it's hard for people to really, really apply these things, man. Like it's not easy. Right. We talked about my yoke is easy and my burden is light.
Yeah.
Right. And when you're just reading and you're not attached, life is difficult.
Yeah.
Right. It's difficult. But if you read and attach yourself to Christ daily, you pray, you talk to him, you stay in communication, you do all the things that he's asking us to do. When those things come, right, it makes it easy for us. But what happens is we read it and we move on about our day. We read it and then we just pass it on by.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We say, oh, that's good. And then we keep going. Right. We got to read it, apply it, attach it so that when the things do come, it's easy to move. Because the word tells us my yoke is easy, my burden is light. If you stay connected to me, then I got you.
That's like even the scripture that says that. It was like those who read the word and walk away are like, it's like someone who looks in the mirror and then walks away and forget what they look like.
Yeah.
Like it's no purpose to read it if you don't. What's the purpose of looking in the mirror if you see something on your face and you just leave it? You're not gonna leave it there. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think I feel like I'm about to forget what I was gonna say, but you have mentioned this. I was really thinking about what Charles was saying, so it took my thought out of my head. Okay. Of the part I wanted to bring up, the kind of like our disciplines, right? And us being kind of like following a standard, because I think we say the title is God and Millennials. And if we're being realistic, like what Charles was saying about people reading the Bible. So people know not to do certain sins, right? People know that there's a certain standard when it comes to following God or whatever, but they just don't do it because it's difficult, it's hard, whatever. So I want to talk about how we've kind of been able to operate either in the standard, put things down, refrain from doing things, what that process has looked like, because I don't think it's something that a lot of millennials are willing to do. Anybody can grab that.
For me, I think it started with love,
Mhm.
right? Like recognizing that Christ loved me so much,
Yeah.
like the love.
Well, can I ask this? Let me put this question. What is the standard? I was just. I'm sorry. I
didn't hear what you're saying, but I have a question.
The homie no, because I'm sorry. Stay positive.
The love of God.
I hear you. Question, right? Like, what? Like, I hear you talking, but
no, because if we're talking about what the standard is, I also want it to be confirmed, like in the viewers, like ears, like what is the standard? What is the standard that we have to uphold?
Love.
Thank you. I'm just making sure. No, because
we're gonna let you finish.
Before I was rudely interrupted.
We'll answer the standard question.
The homie was really
after
offended.
his story. Sure.
No, because the standard and what makes us and what got us here is our base, right? And I think that as we think about that, like the standard for us is the demonstration of love that Christ shared for us. Like my favorite part of the Bible is when the scribe was pressing Jesus, right? Like was on his head, like you gave us all these commandments, blah, 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 blah. What's the most important commandment? And Christ was like, love me with all thy heart, mind, and soul, and love thy neighbor as thyself. If you do those two, everything else will fall in place. And I think that for me, it was just that love piece of recognizing that God loved me first, right? And then just going out and doing my best to love everybody else. Right. And I think once I did those two things, my life just started to, because now people see me in a light of love. Yeah. Now people feel comfortable to have a conversation with me, right? Like, brother, why are you always smiling around here and all jittery? And I get that for real. Like, why are you always off? Yay! And I think it's because of the joy and the peace that Christ has given me through his love, right? Mm-hmm. And then when they ask that question, it opens up the windows. It opens up the floodgates for me to be able to share who Christ is for me and to share who he is. And I think that was the kind of basis for me and the standard for me of just really recognizing that God loved me.
Yeah.
Christ loved me, gave his life for me, did all that, right? And all I got to do is do my best to do the same.
Yeah. And there's also the aspect of loving him back.
Right.
And I think that comes through obedience. And I think a lot of times, all of these like quotables and stuff on Instagram and the graphics and stuff, it's like, God looks out, or God takes care of me, or God does this for me, or I want God to do this. But it's like, I mean, in a real way, what are you doing for God? Like, are you living for God? Are you even loving yourself enough? Because I think even some of the things like, talking about having sex, not getting drunk, right? Not just like being out here loose, right? Like those things matter, and it's a reflection of how you feel about yourself. And people can sit here and be like, oh, okay, not y'all, but just people in general can have an opinion on it and be like, no, I still love myself a lot, and I'm doing this. I'm in my, I don't know if people are gonna say like I'm in my whole season, but like I'm having casual sex, and that's just this part of life, right? And it's like, no, but do you really love yourself in doing that? And then also, if you're professing to love God, is that what he wants you to do? And is he pleased with that? So I think that's also like a part of the standard. It's like not only loving other people, but like loving God. And if I love y'all, there's certain things that I'm not going to do to y'all. Absolutely. And I think that has to be applied in a real way to the way that we are in relationship with him.
I think the focus oftentimes is off. I think in our generation, a lot of us we're focusing on, like when we go to be like, oh, you shouldn't be getting drunk, or you shouldn't be getting faded, or this, that, and the fourth. Like the problem is you're focusing on that. That's why it keeps on coming up. Whatever you focus on, energy goes. And I think Braulio was right about that. We need to focus on the love part. Like, I've been married for 7 years now. People be like,
Period.
Oh, you are like, how are you staying faithful? And, are you tempted and stuff like that? Like there was a point in time I made mistakes in my marriage, but things started changing when I started focusing on loving my wife, and not at 20 years old when we first had our first child. At that time, we weren't married yet, and in the relationship, that used to be an ongoing thing. It's like I can't cheat, can't cheat, can't cheat, can't cheat, and then it's like you could have to make a pivot from focusing on that to focusing on I love my wife.
Yeah.
And the more I focus on just loving my wife, you will find yourself drifting away from those other things. Like, and it's kind of hard to explain. You kind of really got to walk it. It's not going to always make sense, but it started to happen for me. It's like, man, I love my wife, and I don't want my wife to be hurt. I don't want to damage her like that. I don't want to see her broken like this. This is not, this is a part of me now. So I don't want that to happen. And so the more I focus on loving her and nourishing her, I don't have time to be out here doing this foolishness. And so I just feel like instead of for millennials, when we start thinking about, and younger, when we start thinking about a standard, focus on the standard and focusing on the love that God has given you. Start, being grateful for a lot, because every day you wake up, somebody said at the OTA, every day you wake up is a sign. That is a sign that God is not done with you and you have purpose. Literally, that first breath you take, if you're still here, there's something that he still wants something done. You start being grateful and having gratitude for all that kind of stuff. You will realize how blessed you are. And as you look at that, then you can start being a blessing to others. And the more you focus on that, you will naturally get away from all this stuff. Stop telling yourself, "Oh, I just need to stop this. I need to stop this." No, maybe you should just start focusing on things that are better for your time.
That's scripture too. Whatever is good, whatever is noble, whatever.
Think on these things. Think on these things.
And we're about to go to break, but yeah, I want to keep this conversation going, but I also want to, when we come back, we're gonna check on the comments, but then also talk about our generation is getting into a lot of different stuff, and I think that's something that needs to be discussed, like all the different things that people are practicing and the different kind of religions and stuff, and how we are maintaining ourselves or how we are in conversations with people. So when we come back, that'll be the conversation. But y'all hold tight for about 3 minutes. All right, we are back. With
sorry, my
music,
mind just
clearly. We're back. I am Jasmine Gates, your host. This is the New Black History Makers show. And shout out to the good news. I have not mentioned them the whole episode, but shout out to the home team. As you can see, we're in a different studio. They are keeping the wheel going and definitely growing and building and all that. So it's a pleasure to be a part of this movement. But yeah, this is where we will be from now on. So I didn't mention it when we started, and I should have. But back to this conversation, y'all going crazy in the comments and y'all talking to each other. So we see y'all. Shout out to Shauna,
Shout out to the mothers
Sasha,
one time.
right,
OG gang.
everybody
Shout
in
out
the
mamas.
comments. But we're gonna hop back into it. So like I said, we're millennials. We've talked about the, kind of the relationship with the older generation with the church, right? But I think there's also something to be said about the relationships that we have with our peers and the fact that Braulio mentioned it, it's not a lot of them, a lot of people around us that are professing what we profess as it relates to our faith and what we believe in. So yeah, what has been y'all experience with like people practicing other religions or just different conversations? Yeah, what is, and I didn't send them no questions. So these are all like, I knew the questions, but these are all just different topics and stuff that they knew nothing about.
From the hip. Pew, 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 pew.
Pew, 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 pew.
He's been waiting to do that. I think one of the issues with not issue, but one of the things that I find hard is the fact that everybody is does their own thing, right?
Mhm.
And one of the things that I don't want to say crawls my skin, but it always puts my antennas up is like they'll say the God or the universe or whatever you believe. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's to me, like, that's great. Like, okay, that's what you do. You know what I mean? But I think for us as believers, there has to be a space of non-compromise, right?
That's
Like,
good.
there has to be a space of saying like, no, there's a God that I serve.
Yeah.
And there's one God.
And his name is Jesus.
Hey.
I was staring into the camera and started to say anything. And it's funny too, because I was telling one of my
called Calvary.
Wow.
I was telling one of my friends, like, I was like, not that I was gonna do it, but I'm like, I almost feel like I should put Jesus in quotation or like in parentheses under God for the flyer, because there's so many people who see God and it's like, oh yeah, I believe in God, but Jesus, no. Like, so it's a thing where you have to like now be like, no, I believe in God, I believe in Jesus, and this is the faith, and this is what I'm professing, to believe. But there's a lot of like strange variations of religions going on. So it just, I mean, it is. People are doing a lot of different things.
People are doing a lot. I think a lot, and I don't know if this is on topic, but even I mean, I find myself doing it too sometimes, but like even the astronomy thing, like that's huge for me. Like everybody is like on this, even believers though. And that's what trips me out too, is like they like hard time believing in this, you know what I mean? And it's like, I get that. And one of the things that at one point I was thinking, it was like, God is so creative, and God, you know what I mean? I think that God could have been like, you know what I mean? Everybody that's born in this month, you're going to kind of act like this. And everybody that's born in this month, you're going to kind of act like this. But even that for me is like dumb confusing. You know what I mean? It's like, yo, like, how do we really focus on Jesus Christ and not put nothing above that? You know what I mean? Like that's almost like, this is me asking a question for myself in my head of just like, how do I create this space of saying like, maybe some of those things might be, or no, it's not at all. You know what I mean? And just really trying to figure that stuff out, Yeah.
I think all of those things can be like tools, especially when it comes to like, astrology and all that kind of stuff. I think that's something, it's a tool, but it's like for it to become a whole religion, how it's become is the part that's kind of wild for me. And it's like, I think about our generation and just how it's just, once again, it's just not rooted in anything. It's like people believe in so many other things. And then it's like, and one thing that really gets me the same way is that going back to opinions and about this, that, and the fourth, it's like people will, in this day and age, will be so quick to discredit something, but they don't have anything that they stand on.
Right.
Wow.
You know what I mean? It's
That's
like,
deep.
I'm gonna tell you what's wrong with this. I'm gonna tell you what's wrong with that. This is the reason why, this, religion was started by white people, and how could y'all believe in this and this, that, and the fourth? And then it's like, well, what do you believe in?
What do you believe
and then they come,
in?
then they
Buddy.
Big fella. And then they come back and say something like the
Right.
universe.
Also-
It's like, well, I hope so, because we are living. We are living in the universe.
so.
Like we are living in a universe. So I
Oh,
hope
that's
you do
hilarious.
believe that. Like, you know what I mean? That's not hard to really believe in. Like, but what do you really, is there a, going back to the standard, is there a standard? Is there a certain amount of principles? And this is where we've denounced the older generation, because the whether you like the principles that they stood on or not, they at least stood on principles. You ask our generation now, what do you stand on? It's like,
These rocks.
well, I just kind of,
That's another one.
I just kind of go on. I just go out kind of how I feel, and I take every day. And it's like, yeah, but your feelings go to and fro. You'll wake up happy one moment, and then you'll look at your phone and receive a text and be crying the next moment.
Right.
You know what I mean? So what anchors you? What gets you back to where you need to go? And so, I don't try to come at somebody hard, but that's one thing for real. I'll be trying to wrap my mind around our generation. It's like, you're so quick
Where
to
do you
talk
stand?
about Jesus Christ or talk about the Bible and all this, that, and the fourth, but like you don't stand on nothing. You didn't come back with any actual thing that you stand on. You're just taking down my stance,
Yeah.
and you have no stance.
Right.
And there's such an attack on Jesus, Christianity.
For sure.
There's such an attack. So I think that
That's how you know it's real.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, just
And there was did you send me, somebody sent me a video, but they were saying like that. I think we kind of talked about it too. Just like with everything going on, I think the Kendrick thing where he had the throne, on his head, the throne on his head. He had the, what is it called? The crown of thorns on his head. And then you recently saw the baby, him on the cross. And I know that this is something that has happened throughout our culture, but I think it's just something where it's just like something, it should bother your spirit. I think the more we talked about being in the word and it changing you, and the more you being in relationship with God, I don't want to see my Savior being depicted in a way that is not bringing glory to him. And I think those things bother me. And sometimes people are like, oh, well, that's just too much. And I'm like, well, if you put Charles in a picture that wasn't depicting him in a positive way, I would feel something about that.
Right.
And I would speak to it because I know your character. And it's the same thing with God and with Jesus or with our religion, where I'ma still feel something and I'm going to speak to it. But people just like to make it seem like it's just not oh, you speaking to it like you're not this Jesus freak, but like you're being overly concerned about this religion.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, because I'm in relationship with God,
Yeah.
like that's why it's bothering me. But I mean, I think, like you said, I think we have to choose where we're going to stand.
We have to.
Yeah.
We have to, because in the crazy part is it's really, like we talked about, application is tough,
Yeah.
yo. Like it's tough because you really have to decide, like, am I going to rock with Christ, or am I going, you know what I mean, play the middle and everybody be okay with me? You know what I mean? Or am I going to rock with Christ and cats not mess with me? You know what I mean? So it's like it's a tough space to be in.
Yeah.
And we have to really, as millennials, right? And we know, like, we in a generation where we want to be cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's another reason why it's hard to sit in this space.
Yeah.
It's not easy to go places and everybody be like, hey, pastor here. Everybody chill out, pastor here. Like, you know what I mean? Like, who wants, like, bro, chill, bro. Like, I just came to enjoy it, just like y'all came to enjoy it. Like, hey, y'all watch out. Radio here. Hey, can we pray before we start? Like, actually we can, but every time I come in, you don't have to do that, bro.
Right. And can I say one thing? Just
Sure.
just to, when we talk about not knowing where you stand, there is a time. There is a time. I understand there are seasons. There might be a season where you're trying to figure it out. And so I'm not coming against that. Somebody who's just like, I'm trying to figure it out. I'm checking these different religions because I don't know which way is the true way. And, I wasn't born in a church, so I'm trying to figure out. I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about the people who are okay not figuring it out.
Mhm.
Just sitting in the middle, drifting away. And it's like, you've been trying to figure it out for 10 years. Like, at what point are you really trying to figure it out? Or are you just making excuses and keeping it vague so you can't be questioned about anything.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like
Take the easy route.
It's like the dude in the relationship. Crazy because I was just watching TV with my wife before I came here. It's like the dude in the relationship when it comes to that stage of like, okay, you've been with a girl for 5-10 years, and then it's like, okay, what's the next step? And you're like, well, we still got to work ourselves out and we got to do this kind of stuff. But it's like, well, what do you need to work on? And are you working on it?
Yeah.
Are you trying to figure out what the problem is? And are you working on that? Or you just been saying this for 10 years and you really don't have any plan on committing on anything?
Right.
That is hard to respect. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can get trying to figure it out, but really try to figure it out. That should be your job. Like if you don't have a job or if you're not making money, your focus should be on trying to make the money, bro. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
ask God to give you a job.
Your job, like now, you know what I mean? It's like if you're not making any money, then your job at that point, your assignment is to find a way to do it.
For sure. That's good.
Right.
Like that's what you should be doing all day. You should not be sitting around in your butt like, man, I ain't got no job or I'm not making no money. I ain't got no business
picking on
idea.
everybody that is.
Right. Come on, man.
Yeah.
So,
And I think too, for the people because there's certain conversations, y'all know me, I'm churchy, right? So I sit in this circle, I sit in the unchurched circle, and I sit in the real churchy conversation, that circle too. My conversation with church people is very different as it relates to this topic. Because my thing is, as well, I understand that if you are looking to something spiritual for your answers, that you're open to a move of God or you're open to something. Now, to what Rel was saying, if you're trying to figure it out, I don't even think it's your responsibility to keep going. I feel like it's the people in this circle's responsibility to show you a light.
Right.
And at the end of the day, if I'm sitting up here dibbling and dabbling in this and dibbling and dabbling in this, then you're still going to be confused because I'm supposed to be your light. So that's why there's so much of a serious tone about us being firm in what we believe in and not wavering, because I don't want you in your confused, and not even confused state, but in your trying to figure it out state to be like, but Jazz is going to church, but she also do this and she also does that. So that was something that I had to get with myself and be like, oh, if you're going to really be professing this thing and really telling people that you really believe in God, not just they know your upbringing, you need to be consistent across the board.
Absolutely.
And that's why I'm like, be confused, try to figure it out. But at the end of the day, I need to make sure, we got to make sure that we're tight so that when you are coming into our space, it's like, oh, they seem like they really got a good hold on whatever it is that they believe in. And they don't believe in these other things, but their life, I want the life that they have, or their life is a testament to something good happening for them. So it's not even just a thing of, oh, we don't want to dibble and dabble in what y'all doing and we think that you're wrong. It's, I got to be 10 toes down in what I believe in. Right. If I really think that it's something to be grabbed a hold of, if it's something to be like lived out so that you can see what I'm doing and be like, yeah, I want that. But I can't be doing what everybody else is doing and still think that you're going to come to my team. So that it's more so of a thing of like, I need to make sure I'm 10 toes down. Not that you're wrong, regardless of what we believe, but I need to show you something. And that's the charge.
Yeah, I mean, I get that, right? And I hear you, but I also feel like I'm really big on meeting people where they're at, especially with myself and just like figuring out and building my own relationship with God. And it can be from somebody that is like trying to come into that as if though it's like they're looking like how you were talking about earlier about all the negative things. It's like, oh, I got to stop doing this. I got to stop doing that. I got to stop. Like, I don't want to stop doing all of that. And it's like, you're not just going to wake up tomorrow and stop doing everything that is not what you're supposed to be doing. Right. So it takes time. It does take progression. So again, like you were saying, be okay with like being okay. Like, you know what I'm saying? Even when you're not, or when it's not comfortable, because for me, I feel like I had to come to terms when we were talking, when I was posting about like, you know, the baby and all the Kendrick stuff, I had to take that stance for myself. Like, all right, I can't be playing with y'all no more. Like y'all, it's a line and y'all crossing it. And I'm not about to, like, I'm gonna have to stand on 10 toes right now for God. Right. And some people don't come to that realization till way later. Or it's like, oh, I still want to drink, but okay, I can't get drunk. Like it's different, it's certain levels. And I feel like, I don't know, with the church or just like the elderly generations, a lot of conversations are judgy or they come off judgy. And it's like, if everybody just worries about themselves and where they're at with their walk with God, it's like we'll come to a resolve. It's like everybody's not going to be in the same like maturity when it comes with it.
And I
So
don't think it's
just
about being in the same maturity, but I think there's a consistency that has to happen in the body of Christ, regardless of, where anybody is at. And I think that's maybe like more so of what's being spoken to. Like there's just certain things that you cannot do.
yeah, there's definitely consistency, and there is definitely some things you can't do, but I do think we have to take heed to where everybody's at, because we have to remember for ourselves, we didn't just wake up and where we're at today. We have to grow to that space. So the same grace and that same position that we wanted when we were trying to figure things out for ourselves, we still have to be able to give that back out to people that are trying to figure it out.
And I think that the dopest part about that, and as I listen to you both, and we talk about ourselves, but we have to continue to point people in the direction of Christ. Like, don't look at me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, don't worry about where I am. Don't worry about where I am, my spirituality. Look at Christ. And I think where we mess up at, and I think a lot of the mess up came from this minister that was in front of everybody who was perfect. Right? Like he painted this picture of like, this is where I am. Right? And everybody looked at him and put him on a pedestal, or her, whoever it is, put him on a pedestal. And then when they messed up, it pushed everybody back, because they was like, yo, he's not supposed to do that. He's not supposed to be in that space. And what they were doing was they were looking at the human being, not understanding that the human being is imperfect. The human being is, again, jacked up. Right? As human beings, we are imperfect. But what happens is we paint this picture of us being this, you know what I mean? We being molded and being okay and being great. Yeah. And they looking at us and they putting us on a pedestal and saying, oh, Charles doing his thing. Amber, Jazz, they doing their thing. Bradley O'Reilly, they doing their thing. And then when we mess up, it's like, they ain't supposed to do that. I'm not rocking with this religion. This religion's trash. But what they don't understand is it's not about what we doing and what we saying. It's solely about God and about Christ. And that's what we have to continue to point people to, and saying it's not about us. It's not about where we are, but it's about who God wants you to be. Right. And if you do that, then you focus on the right person. So when things are, or when you do look perfect, you know that I know that's just where they are. I can get there, but I need to focus on God.
And I think that's why like conversations like this are so dope, because it has to be talked out, right? Because if nothing is ever challenged for clarity, nobody will understand. Because I think the main part in this conversation is really from the point of, it's like coming into the body of a believer. There's sheep and there's shepherds. And if we try to hold the same standard for both at the same time, there gets confusion, right? Yeah. But that doesn't mean that there isn't standards, right? Yeah. For me, I think we talk about even the topic of all these other religions, right? Why is Jesus unattractive? It's because in my eyes, I think there's a standard of, like how to live a certain way. You're not supposed to do X, Y, Z, right? And this is a right standard, but I don't think people explain the why right. It's just like the same reason why people have a bad, at least, growing up in South Central, it's a lot of single mothers. And, what I mean? Like I could speak on my behalf of knowing like people in the Black community or whatever. It's like, I got a lot of homies and like old heads and people that I know that speak bad against marriage. And it's like, yeah, bro, I don't like marriage because marriage is woo, 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 woo. It's like people trying to push me for their agenda. It's just like, oh, they don't like the idea of marriage because they have an improper view of it. It's like, oh, because if I have to do this, just like Ray was saying, it's like, oh, I don't have to cheat. I don't have to cheat. I don't have to cheat. You're completely right. That is the standard, but your why of the standard is incorrect. Right. You're not supposed to not cheat because it's a law. The same way with Christianity, you're not supposed to not drink and not fornicate because it's a law. You do it because you actually love Christ. And if you don't love Christ, you can do the right thing the wrong way. And that's why I asked about the standard thing. There is a standard, and we have to uphold the standard because that's how people see it. But we can uphold the standard in the wrong way. Yeah. So I think the way of the standard is more important than the standards, because even in the Bible, that was the difference between the Jews and the Gentiles, or even just the Jewish church. Like God said, get away. You cast demons out of my name, but I don't know you. The Jews in that time and era, they were not eating pork. They were not fornicating, all this type of stuff. But Jesus still said, like, I don't know you. I'm sorry. So we can do all the right things, But if we do it the wrong way, but God gave us the standard. So I think it all boils down to, if we're talking about results, we always have to have these conversations. But at the end of the day, it's like, I just like how Brother was saying, like, we just need to be in places where we're just light, because then they'll come to know. Because like, I grew up in the church, but never wanted to cause how you looking at it, I was like, what are we looking at? Like, I never really wanted to give God a try because it wasn't attractive to me. You know what I mean? But now people in our generation, even especially what we're doing at Over the Hump, they want to give God a try, not because we're doing everything right, but because our heart posture is, God, I love you. I want to do it your way, even if I don't understand it. Right. But if there was no standard, we wouldn't even have that heart to say that.
Yeah, that's good, dude. That's real good.
Yeah, so I think there's definitely a lot that has to happen around that conversation. I think there's a lot of different sides, but I definitely, think there is some type of charge, like we said, even when it comes to the older generation and us being a part of that. And then also us being a part of, this conversation with our millennial age group and our generation too. And like I said earlier, it's not always a fair thing. It's like, dang, I have to be responsible here. And then I have to also be responsible here and make sure that these two spaces are being bridged. And I know even for myself, it's like, sometimes I'm just like irritated. Like, y'all over here don't want to talk to the unchurched, and y'all over here that don't go to church don't want to sit up here and talk to the people that go to church. And it's like, that's a crazy space to be in. But yeah, I think conversations like these are definitely necessary, for sure. But we're gonna wrap up soon. So any closing words, or if y'all have questions, you can ask a question.
My question for anybody that want to is like, oh, you want to interrupt me now?
No, I was just about to say.
Stop. I have something to say.
The homie always got a question.
Right. He probably done had about 15 of them this whole.
But it's in the space, like, how do we, because I know I have a problem of this, and I constantly try to check myself. It's hard sometimes, but what do you think is a good solution to not put our opinions over the ultimate goal of Christ? Because like, even with this conversation, it's a lot to say. Oh yeah, this is the way we need to do it. And this is so ironic because this is what happens in the Bible. Literally, I'll never forget, I was reading the Bible. I was like, bro, this is crazy. When Paul pressed Peter, he was like, hey, bro, you doing this wrong. Don't I try to woo. I'm like, these are disciples getting into it. I'm like, oh, and this is after Jesus died. So it was crazy, but it's just to think that we could get caught up in, oh, this way or what we need to do when the ultimate goal is Christ. So like, even for us, or even for anybody listening, for anybody that's a believer, how do we not get distracted from making sure God is God is the main point and not our opinions of how to get to God?
If it's not biblical, it's optional. If it's not biblical, it's optional. So often, and I think one of the biggest things that I've learned, especially growing up in a traditional Black church, is there are so many things that we was raised not to do, to do, how to do it. And as I've grown up, I realized that a lot of these traditions were created just to kind of separate the church from everybody else, right? And I also realized that a lot of those traditions aren't biblical. They've just some things that were created
for sure
to separate what we look like compared to the world.
Take your hat off when you come in.
Yeah, like
So Charles came to my church and somebody made him take it.
Oh, they gonna make you take it off at mine too.
Yeah.
And it was
for sure.
Excuse me, sir.
Excuse me, sir. Can you take that off?
In the house of the Lord.
Why? I ain't got a haircut.
That service was still dope too. That service was dope though.
Yeah. But yeah, so I just think that if it's not biblical, it's optional. Like, and the only way we're gonna know it's biblical is if we dive in for ourselves.
Right. And sorry, got to do it. Got to repeat it because it needs to be driven home. Humility. That's how.
Yeah.
You have to start checking yourself and realizing like if it's not for the Lord, like you got to search your heart, and it takes a lot of discipline too.
What if you think it is for the Lord though? Because I know I've been wrong in places where I've pressed people, and I'm like, you know what I'm saying? Like, even with people on the team, and I get like, dang, I forgot that these people are people. You know what I mean? Even with y'all, so like,
you'll never be perfect. you'll never be perfect. So let's just say, like, just put that out there. You're gonna make mistakes, but humility will have you make that mistake, then go home and then pray about it and seek the Lord about it, and then the Lord will arrest your heart and tell you,
Arrest your heart.
He will arrest your
Yes,
heart.
he's ready to preach.
He will arrest your heart and tell you were wrong
That
about
man
that,
a bottle of
and then
water.
you will come.
A glass with the
with the napkin on top.
And a towel.
But for real, God will arrest your heart and then have you go back and be like, I was wrong.
Mm.
So you're never gonna like get to a point where you're not making any mistakes. But you know, if as long as you're seeking the Lord, and this is the reason why I feel like, you know, David was so high regard. He talks about his heart. David was doing some savage stuff. But every time he was seeking the Lord, like, you know what I mean? Lord, please get me right, get me right. And so if you can stay in a posture of humility, it won't negate the problems completely, but it will ultimately correct things in the end.
Yeah.
You know, so that's my take on that.
Yeah, I think it's about even just staying in relationship with God, you know, and I think a lot of times removing like emotions and stuff. I think that was a big thing for me, like removing this, like, well, I don't want to do this, or I don't want to be seen that way, or I don't want people to feel like I'm overbearing with my religion or whatever. And just operating in a space where it's like, this is, you know, I'm in relationship with God and I'm constantly seeking him. So there won't be too many like long periods of time, right, where I'm just wrong in something and then not able to go back and say I apologize, right? Or I'm responding negatively to something, right? Because like I haven't been in relationship with him or been talking to God. So I think that's a big part. And then I think that's the biggest thing, like you said. There's a lot of times because we know the word and we feel like we really are in this good relationship with God that we feel like we are correct, you know, and sometimes that's not it. I mean, I think did you say it? But everything that's, you know, allowed is not beneficial.
Yeah.
So even though you're allowed to tell somebody that they are off and that the Bible doesn't say that, it doesn't mean that it's beneficial.
Back to the Bible.
Yeah, that's good. That's real good, man.
But yeah, do you want to answer your own question?
For me, I've been in this big space of, and I truly think this is the goal of Over the Hump, even as we go forward, is to present the knowledge, right? But if people don't eat it, don't force it to them, but to walk alongside of them, no matter how long it takes. Even if they live a whole life of failing completely,
That's good, dude.
I'm just going to walk along, because I think like every time I think I got it together, when I fall short, it messes up my mind. I'm like,
space to stand up. God, come on, man.
But like I think of like my favorite scripture is in James, and it says, like, consider it pure joy when you face trials of any kind, for we know that the testing of your faith, like the fact that our faith is going to be tested, that means it's almost like we in our walk, we feel like we just got to get to this, or this person's right, and this like, and like I'm right, and I just wish people could see that I'm right. And God is saying, like, I'm testing your faith, because at the end it's a level of maturity, Charles. And it's not about you. The end goal is heaven. And it's just, but I say that to say, even for myself, like, even from you guys, even from the OTH congregation with my mother, like, I ask that you give me grace as I try to figure this thing out. Because I get in my feelings sometimes, you feel me? I get in my flesh sometimes. I get a lot of things like, but it's just, I think it's just the fact that it's a journey. You know what I mean?
What are you laughing at? This man is cracking up.
We saying positive out here.
Oh man, what a blessing, man. Like my uncle say it all the time, but Christians should be the happiest people in the world.
For sure.
Like,
and not only happy, go ahead.
Nah, go ahead. They should be the happiest people in the world.
Not
bro.
only
like,
happy.
That's another time you to interrupt me.
I used to stay positive, bro.
Over there.
This is our conversation. We just be yelling at each other in a healthy way.
Oh man, but we should, man. We should be the happiest people in the world, man, where we can laugh, we can enjoy life. And I think that as I sit here with y'all and we have this conversation, it's beautiful to be able to have this type of conversation and it be kind of candid.
What is going on, y'all?
But it's a blessing, man. It's a blessing.
Yeah. And I think I mean I've mentioned it on the show before because I push back on the like happiness thing, right? But I think because it comes and goes.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, so my thing is always being peaceable. So even if right now somebody comes in and they make me want to go off on them, and maybe I do, right? And
Maybe I do. Let's just say, but possibly.
But I think there's a way to let someone know in a stern way that they have hurt you or did whatever in a peaceful way.
For sure.
And
100%.
I think it's important for us as Christians, like shout out to Corey if you're watching. We kind of talked about like this presence on social media that we have as believers, and we don't need to just post scriptures all the time, right? We don't need to just post that we're in church all the time, but sometimes it needs to be that, yes, I'm in a space that's not necessarily a God space, right? But I'm still living for God here.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that's also a thing too. Like even in an emotion or in a time that's not very good, right? Where I'm not happy, can I still be a child of God in this moment? Do I still, you know, uphold certain standards? Am I still going to make sure that when we leave from this conversation, it may not have been the healthiest, it may not have felt cool, but you can't say that God wasn't, you know, present here.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
I think that's always like my thing, and I think it's just something that we should be like carrying to be happy.
I just saw that a quote that says, like, it's not about perfection, it's about how you deal with your imperfections.
Sheesh kebab.
No, for sure.
Sheesh kebab.
Sheesh kebab. But yeah, shout out to y'all in the comments and stuff.
It went crazy.
Yeah, we definitely appreciate y'all for tuning in. I gotta have y'all come back. This is dope.
No, for sure.
Yeah, hopefully we can y'all will see some more from OTH. But nobody else has last words or any last questions or anything.
Nah, that was good, y'all.
Yeah. Well,
Whole lot of gang activity.
Y'all want to give your Instagrams and stuff so people can follow you?
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
Oh.
We're all on the Over the Hump
for sure
page. Just follow the 8 that you see.
Stay positive.
The 8.
OT Over the Hump XLA.
Yeah.
That's the page.
On IG.
Well, since they being modest, I'm at Braulio.
Come mess with your boy.
I'm at Braulio Arch. BRAULIOARCH.
Spell
Yep.
it wrong, y'all. Y'all not gonna find it.
Braulio is a BR.
Right.
Braulio.
That's the homie new Instagram name, Braulio Road R.
Real.
Real does it. RELDOESIT.
Yes, Bishop.
I don't know like it.
Bishop, where you at?
California rap.
That's his Instagram. He said it like it was a game.
You know him over there.
Hey, boop.
She said, boop.
But yeah, so definitely follow, stay connected, follow these cool people. I guess you could say we do ministry here in LA. So
ain't no guessing. We out here, man. Gangland, man.
This is how
Gangland,
they talk
we out.
about
It's gangland, man. And we out here.
And this is
It's
how
a
they
war.
talk
This a
about
bigger.
ministry.
It's a bigger war than you feel me, like games, man. It's a spiritual war. We gang banging for
Sure.
Christ. Stay positive.
Oh my God. I didn't know I signed up for this, Lord.
Lord. But yeah, it's a cool space, and I think for people that, you know, anybody, you know, it's a space for you to come and just experience God. So follow us. There's also a prayer call every Wednesday at 8 a.m. Where either one of us may be praying. So come in and join us, and then I'll be back next Friday at 3:30 in this dope it's not new, but in this dope studio. It was the
September 21st. Y'all save the date. Wednesday, September 21st.
Yes,
I thought it was come on, that was not a regular cutoff. That was, you was at the end, you was mumbling. I thought it was the all right, well, we'll talk to you later. I was trying to do it before.
Please pray for Charles.
Wow, pray for me.
He wants to show. He actually preaches. You preach and you just think you're just gonna come in here and be the preacher.
Oh, wow, stay positive. Stay positive.
That's what's wrong with preaching. No,
I'm practicing on my humility. Like Real said, it's humility.
Well, September 21st, we'll be back in the backyard.
Real preaching.
Real is preaching. Real is also preaching on Sunday. So shout out to you. Yeah.
Information's on my Instagram. I gotta post that in my story today.
Real does it.
So I'm gonna keep that. I'm gonna get that information on ASAP.
These things.
She said that's what's wrong with preachers. That's why people don't want to come to
That's
church.
why people don't want to come to the church.
My wife
Talk
said
about
that.
come to Over the Hump.
My
You over
wife
here
said that the
interrupting
other
people.
My wife said, y'all just like the regular church. You don't get home till 10.
I mean, we need to talk about that.
Hey, look.
Somebody buy Over the Hump a TV. Say
We need to
bye.
talk about that. They be talking about Kojic getting out every 3 hours. We be getting out. We be in there for 3 hours.
Yes, Lord.
Right.
Look.
I
Oh.
miss it, you guys. Oh,
Oh, that's Crystal right there.
Hey.
Crystal, we ain't out yet.
right. Because church people don't know how to get out of church.
Yeah.
Look at y'all just being just like the people you talking about. Stop
I
telling my
know.
business. All right, y'all. We about to get out of here, but definitely stay tuned. I appreciate y'all for sticking with us and watching everything. We'll be back next Friday at 3:30. Bye.
Okay.
Without the power of God behind everything I do, I really am completely inadequate.
I'm helping the culture. These guys are part of us as well. You know, these are guys of our cousin. I'm helping the culture. I'm pushing the culture forward in another way.
Hey, black child, be what you can be, learn what you must learn, do what you can do, and tomorrow